hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 3 of this season, coming to you today from the Hungaroring. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, it hasn't been too terribly long since we saw the Spec Racer Fords run here at this racetrack. It was a fixture of last season's schedule, right towards the end of that schedule as well. So we aren't too terribly far off the back of seeing these cars run around here, but it is still a rather bizarre sight. You don't really see the Hungaroring get a lot of use here in the sim, and I wonder if this track's lack of use on iRacing is maybe going to affect the kind of racing we see here today.
Well, I guess it is helpful that we ran here last season, so that at least the our week to week standards that are here all the time drivers will at least be familiar with it. Excuse me there. So they'll at least have some laps and some time on the track. But yeah, it's not a one that got a lot of use. It did early, obviously. iRacing when they get a new track scan, they like to push it out there for lots of series to get people familiar with it, and it's a decent track. It's a technical track. But it's pretty decent, and there's some good things here that the spec racers are going to enjoy, like some of these long straightaways, and the drafting is going to be at a premium again today.
Yeah, the draft is certainly going to be strong around here. You got that start-finish stretch, and also the run-up into this turn number 4, where you've got that long, flat-out section that may not be too terribly long, and that's because it isn't. But around this track, it is certainly long in the grand scheme of things here. Gotta be a fun race this here to ring in the end of the first quarter of this season. We've had a brilliant ride up to this point here already in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. I've had 2 good races up to this point, and speaking of the races we've had up to this point, the season we've had up to this point, let's maybe take a look at the championship point standings heading into this race. Eric Luke is your current Spec 1 championship points leader, your reigning champion in Spec 2, making that jump up here, was able to grab the win at Interlagos a couple of weeks ago, and while he didn't get done at the Red Bull Ring last time out, a good result there still means he leads over last week's race winner Marco Pinero in P2. Felix Moaz slotted in P3, only 2 points back of Marco Pinero, but that is a vast yawning chasm compared to the one singular point between Samoas and Jason Green in P4. Kane Lasky rounds out your top 5 in Spec 1. Gotta take a quick on-gander at Spec 2, where Phil Berry has been the other dominant driver up to this point here in this season. Grabbed a win last time out at the Red Bull Ring. He's been quick, currently 122 points on the board. Andrew Love, who we're actually following right now in the 544 car, slotted second in Spec 2. Kevin Adrian in third, with Dirk Braun and Joshua Wilkie, our very own here from Slow Motion Broadcasting, rounding out your top 5 in Spec 2. And here's the final class. It's the Masters category, where Jeff Fritcher, off the back of the championship last season, looking to keep that momentum rolling. Already has a pole position up to this point, was able to grab the pole and the win in Masters at Interlagos. And Antonio Reese, as much as he wasn't able to do that for round number 1, he was able to do it for round 2, and that's the reason why it's only 6 points between himself and Fritcher for the lead in Masters. Tom Gradwell slotted in third, Brad Cathcart in fourth, Adam Bradshaw, Yergmani, Kurt Nunez, Jim Brewster, and Charlie Vaccaro round out your drivers currently classified in the Masters standings. But going from the point situation to thinking about this qualifying session, where we still have about 8 minutes left to go, it's going to be a challenging race. And as much as the keys for the race are looking somewhat similar to what they did last year, I think those keys can also be useful for this qualifying session as well, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. The keys to the race are just what we had last year. It's good that we can use our graphics over again. I don't have to recreate them in Photoshop. So obviously, step 1, you got to attack the curbs and the chicane. That's how you're going to get your time on this track. We've got Marco up there at a 2:04. Did see some practice times in the 159s. Secondly, smooth transitions through the corners. You want to make sure you get the car rotated. Curbs if necessary, but you have to be very careful with those in the Spec Racer. And then finally, you got to look for your passes in the braking zones. There's a couple of pretty difficult braking zones, hard braking zones, especially into that chicane, that you're going to have to get the car slowed up for, and that's a good place to try and make a move. So those are our big keys. Obviously, we talk about the draft, but we talk about the draft with these cars every week because it's so prominent. This, I don't know that necessarily I would call it a draft track. There's a couple of spots, but it's pretty technical by and large, so you got to really keep your momentum going in these cars throughout the entire lap.
And one more thing to raise, talking about these rather intriguing Spec Racer Ford cars, because there's really nothing like it, both in the sim and in real life for that matter. This qualifying session, there's a very good reason why you rarely, if ever, see these drivers be in the pits during this qualifying session. These drivers cannot change the amount of fuel that is in their race car when it comes to the setup, so these racers, pretty much as soon as this 20-minute long session starts, they just run laps, run around this track, try and burn as much fuel as they possibly can so they can line up their car and have a good run right toward the end of this qualifying session to set in a good time. Your current provisional pole sitter is Marco Pinero. The Italian is our pole man presently, saying a 2-minute 1.232. About a half a second is the gap between himself and Eric Luke. Felix Samoa is slotted in third. Jeff Fritchier is your leader of the Masters driver presently, and Kevin Adrian is in 12th. But let's do an onboard lap with the current sponsor of today's broadcast, that being Eric Luke. Charles, I'll pass this off to you.
Yeah, as we head down this long run, this is the biggest draft point here on the track, this front straight. As we head down into turn one, going to be a little bit of drama here, probably at the start of the race, but plenty of runoff to keep your car in the proper configuration as he works his way out. As we get to this little clip here, I think, is that turn two? Maybe not, don't know. As we'll go down here into this left-hander. Downhill, it makes it more difficult on the brakes, that downhill elevation change through 3, and then here into 4. A little quick kink to the right, and we get another little run down here as he was working by, I think that's Kane Lasky there on the outside, using the curb on the outside there to get the entry for that corner. Taking a bit of curb on the inside as well as he works his way around through 6. And then I believe we're coming up here to the little short run into the chicane. You got to get this car really slowed down. The entry curb, you're going to take a bunch of that. You're going to try south that orange sausage curb there in the middle, that diamond curb in the middle of the chicane. That will really upset the car as you work your way out of that through 9 and into 10. And we get another little run, and this kind of opens up a little bit, so you get some sweepers as we work our way down here into this corner. Nicely done there, as we see, I believe that was Nunez moving out of the way as Luke is on his hot lap. And then finally this very, very sharp right-hander into the hairpin coming up, as this is where pit entry is going to be. We'll be out on your outside, so that'll be kind of a trouble point here, but it's usually pretty straightforward. As they're coming out of that corner, you'll see you just stay over on the right and you'll be fine. And then the final corner, nice little 180 right-hander, and then we're back to the start-finish line, and the line is right here, so you get a little bit of a draft, and I don't know that we'll have anybody making a move there at the very end unless somebody messes up the exit of that corner. So we'll I think the guy that manages to get through there at first probably is going to hang on for the win, but good lap there by Eric Luke as he is sitting there in P2. He's only a half second behind Marco Pinero, with Felix Samoa's only 5 thousandths back. So you can see the group starting to tighten up, and I expected it to be a little bit more of a stagger between Spec 1 and Spec 2, just because of the nature of this track, the technical nature of this track, and I think that's what we're seeing here today.
Yeah, these drivers really have a test on their hands just to keep that car going in a straight line and keep it at a rather good pace. It's tough around here. Just to keep it consistent is certainly a big thing that these drivers have to think about all throughout this race. And we're seeing many other racers in this series that we've seen be very quick in the past, maybe have their own struggles at the present moment. Charlie Vaccaro, one of the final few drivers here in this qualifying session that has yet to put a time on the board. We follow him heading his way off through the mid-sector right now. That is off into turn number 10 into 11 right now. Here's Michele Vaglini in the 319 car, the other driver currently qualified in 30th in that bright yellow 319 car, heading his way off through that mid-sector. That chicane, though, turn 6 and 7, we just saw Josh Wilkie head through it right now. That is about as clunky as like a badly tuned diesel dumper truck with a missing cylinder.
Yeah, absolutely, it really is. And there's one line through there, and that's how you're going to have to handle that corner. As we're on board here with Jorg Monty with that Popeye liveried Spec racer. Good to see Jorg out here again. We're on board now with Rocha as he's working his way down. Currently running in P23, so having himself a bit of a decent run, must be said. As we're kind of just looking around here. As we're ending up here with about a minute and a half left, you're going to get one more good flying lap for these guys that are coming around the final quarter now before so you want to make this last lap as best as possible because the next time you come by, you will be taking the checker flag.
Yeah, so it is certainly crunch time here in this qualifying session. We're going to start to see these drivers push that limit a little bit more. Josh Wilkie and Dirk Braun both getting some very good lap times a couple of moments ago. Dirk Braun, he's had a pretty all right season up to this point. Haven't really mentioned him too much, but he's actually able to put in some good results throughout this season. No wins up to this point, but did grab the pole in Spec 2 last time at the Red Bull Ring. So let's see what he may be able to do as we get to the end of this qualifying session. Your current pole sitter in Spec 2 is Kevin Adrian, but just enough time left to go for some more drivers to put some lap times on the board. Here's Daniel Wood, the 28 car, heading his way down into turn number 10. Let's see what he may be able to do. Matt Thompson, a driver we like to see here in the Weekend Warriors and Ray Esports world, was a standout star in the Ray Esports Club Racing League this past winter, and looking to see what he can do here in this race today. Michael Odell, been a little while since we saw the driver of the 197 car make his appearance here in the Spec Racer Fords, but after winning some Spec 2 races a couple of seasons ago now, he's back. He's running in Spec 1 now, currently slotted in P14. Let's see what he may be able to do with 3, 2, 1, 0 seconds left on the clock here in qualifying. We're on these drivers' final laps.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just kind of looking at the board, and there's a couple of cars that seem a little bit out of place. So we'll keep an eye on them on this last run as we have a few cars coming across the start-finish line now. Jason Green down in P9, Antonio Reese in 10th, and Jorg Monty in 12th. Normally you see those guys up in the top 5 when they're out here racing. So it's a little bit off for them today. So I don't know if it's just the nature of the track or what, but we'll see if they manage to get a little better time in here on their last lap.
See what sort of advantages they may be able to get here at the end. The draft's certainly important in these Spec Racer Fords. They're draft monsters, and even though this track not exactly known for being one where you're spending a lot of the lap flat out, it's still important to try and get it done. Josh Wilkie just got done to jump his way up into the Spec 2 pole, a 201.6, as Felix Samoas jumps up to second there. Wasn't able to usurp Marco Pinero, who remains on the pole. Samoa certainly got close, though, 4/10 of a second, a little bit under that, in fact, as Matt Thompson about to cross the line here in a few moments' time. Good in the mid sector, not so great in the first sector. Let's see what the driver of the 333 car does across the line. Not an improvement. It was an improvement from him. Our numbers were deceiving us for a couple of moments. Not enough to grab the Spec 2 pole, but it's good enough for P17 at 201.856 for Matt Thompson to jump his way up a little bit farther inside of the top 20. But Marco Pinero, as he usually is here in the Spec Racer Fords, looking like he's got to start this race from the overall pole.
Yeah, that's of things that we would expect, that would be one of them. Marco's just a beast in this car. But yeah, good job by Josh and Matt to move up. So now they got about a 10th and a half between the top 3 Spec 2 runners. So that'll be an interesting battle on the track for the entire 40 minutes. As we got, looks like Monty's coming into the pits, so he's done for his. He'll end up in that P12 position, it appears. I think Antonio went around, but I don't think he's on pace. So I think he's not going to be advancing his time. Odell looks like he is not going to have any improvement, as it looked like that was green for a minute, then turned yellow. So second sector, not any improvement there, as he's working his way around the final couple of corners. And it's it's one of these corners right here. You really have to just it's a little bit of work to just keep that momentum up. You just kind of have to slide that car around through there, because that's like a couple of 180s back to back, and it just feels like you're just bleeding speed off the entire time.
And one thing to raise talking about these cars is super important to keep that momentum rolling. I can kind of compare it as you get bits of the Formula Fords that we see earlier on these afternoons here on Slow Motion Broadcasting in the Weekend Warriors world, and the Formula Vs that you can catch on Saturdays. You kind of have dynamics from both of those. Creates a very unique form of racing and a very fun one to watch as well. But qualifying's done. We can take a look at the starting grid now and brace ourselves for what's going to be a rather dramatic 40-minute long race in front of us. That's going to be Marco Pinero starting from the pole. Felix Samoas will join him on the front row. It will be Eric Luke starting starting in third. Jeff Fritcher grabbing the Masters pole position will start in fourth. Right behind him will be Solal Shutwi in P5, Kane Lasky in P6. Christian Kabanka will start in seventh. Alongside him will be Joaquin Ozbek in P8. Jason Green will start in ninth with Antonio Reese, rounding out your top 10.
Yep, Scott Russell starts in P11. Jorg Monty will start in P12. Josh Justice back there in 13th. Michael Odell starting in 14th. Josh Wilkie starts in P15 alongside Kevin Adrian in 16th. Matt Thompson will start in 17th. Flavio Andalo will start in P18. Dirk Braun in 19th. Tom Gradwell, one of our Australian contingent, starts in P20. Kurt Nunez starts in 21st. Jesus Rodriguez in 22nd. Leonard Geese starts in 23rd. Dan Wood starts in P24. Peterson Rocha starting in P25. Ian Gibson starting in P26. Andrew Love in 27th. Adam Bradshaw starts in P28. Brad Cathcart in 29th. Michele Baglini is in P30. And then we've got Gilles Gini, I believe, starting in 31st. I'm sorry if I've screwed that name up. And Charlie Vaccaro will start in P32.
That'll round out our starting grid for this race. Nice to see Gilles Gini. We'll get further confirmation about that driver's name pronunciation. The number 16 car, though, now he's starting this race in 31st. We noted this before we got this broadcast up and rolling. He has the highest I rating out of anybody in this race. Yes, even higher than Marco Pinero. He's an 8.4K I rating driver, rounded up to 8.5K. Insane stuff. Insane level of competition that we've got here in this series. Awesome to see such a diverse group of drivers, many different backgrounds, many different skill sets, many different things that these drivers have in their arsenal to do well in these races. But Marco Pinero doing what he usually does, starting this race from the pole, keeps on a streak of 3 different Spec 1 pole sitters, overall pole sitters here this season, as we have the green flag. The green flag is down. The drivers are on their way here at the Hungaroring. And let's see that drag race as they head their way down that start-finish stretch, off into turn at number 1. They are already deciding to get racy. 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide. Holy cow.
Jeez.
They fan their way down that start-finish stretch into turn number 1. Some puffs of smoke, some drivers trying to lock it up, get woed up into the turn. They're 4 wide through turn 1. That's not going to work, boys. Contact being made. Then Michael Odell with a half spin out of it. The 197 car keeps it going in a straight line, albeit he's lost down some time side by side with Jeff Fritcher. He's now battling hard with Eric Luke there as well. That's a move from Fritcher to jump his way up into P3. We've already had a non-Spec 1 driver win earlier on this season in the Formula V's 1 week ago at Phillip Island. Let's see if Jeff Fritcher may be able to make that another non-Spec 1 winner here in the Spec Racer Fords.
Yeah, good start. I mean, we did have a couple, we had 1 half spin there in the middle of the pack, but rush hour traffic in Hungary, as everybody going down 3 and 4 wide into the first corner, and just luckily we only had the 1 half spin. I'm just kind of looking down the board. We've already got a couple of drivers on below and Gradwell up 7 positions since the start of the race.
See another off-track moment potentially there for the 197. A scrappy start for sure for Michael Odell. He had that moment out of turn at number 1, but since then he's been able to dust himself off rather okay. Just got moved on, I believe, around the outside of Kevin Adrian coming out of that 6 and 7 chicane. But at the front of the field, Pinero is leading, and there may have been some drama a little bit farther in the back, potentially involving Kurt Nunez, I'm hearing, in the 918, has had some drama. He's towed back to pit lane. That driver who started a little bit farther in the back, not getting off to a good start at all. But it's been more or less a clean one here at the Hungaroring, which is a little bit surprising considering how twisty this track really is.
Yeah, it was like, you're absolutely right. We only had 1 driver, and Kurt, I believe, is already towed and exited the sim, so he's done for today. So no, don't want him. I don't want him part of this as we get our first lap completed, and still just we're kind of lined up nose to tail now, and we're going to start looking at. We've got the top 22 cars all within a second of each other from front to back, so that's kind of what you expect coming down this front straight at the first lap of this race.
As we see some drivers still getting some moves on a little bit farther in the back, Gilles Gini has been able to jump his way up into P23. A fantastic start for the Frenchman. He, I believe, is your hard charger, already up 8 spots from where he started in this race. Although he does have some company in that regard. Flavio Andelo and Tom Gradwell both up 7. So it is by no means a surefire deal in terms of who's going to walk away with a hard charger title at the end of this race. But as we see these drivers head their way down the stretch into turn number 4, I'm going to take some advice that I got after the Formula V broadcast yesterday here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and upon seeing Michelle Lynn in the YouTube chat, I will let all of you know that this track here at the Hungaroring, this jaunt is tough.
There you go. Yeah, and Genie, he started in the back, did not qualify, decided he's going to do the first challenge today. Started back there with Charlie Vaccaro. And so he's going to see if he can how much he can work his way through. I guess we call that the Naselli challenge in honor of Maurizio, who's kind of the master at that. As we ooh,
and Bradshaw, I think, was the one that piled into the back of him there.
So as we continue back to the live action here, we got Pinero ahead of Samoas and Fritcher. Those are your top 3. Still have that nice gap up there. We're starting to see a little bit of separation now as we got some cars shuffling around. See a battle there. That's Josh Wilkie hanging around the inside, on the inside of Tom Gradwell, I believe, just behind Jason Green, who's still sitting back there, dropped down to P12 already.
I think there's been some more drama heading down into turn number 12. Jason Green going down the inside of Tom Gradwell. Did that work out well for those two racers? It's tight as they head their way through 12. They keep it clean through there. Now into turn 13. This hairpin super tough to try and nail down. They're side by side still. Who's going to win out in this fight as they head their way out of that section? Looks like it'll be Jason Green winning out and all that. And Josh Wilkie going for the dive on Gradwell as well. That's one more thing to race about this track, because there are so many turns back to back to back to back to back to back to back. If you have one driver get a move done on you, chances are that's going to snowball out of control, and in the blink of an eye, you'll go from 1 spot to probably about 5 spots farther back, as the fighting still was not over until we finally backed out, and Wilkie went for a dive on Green into 1.
Yeah, they made it stick, so he managed to pick up that spot. So great move by Josh. Dropped Jason down to 13th. I think Jason's struggling a little bit today. Normally, wouldn't see him falling back like this unless he's got some kind of super secret strategy going on there involving his fuel number. I don't think it's paying dividends for him yet. But you see the gap already. Top 11 cars are still nose to tail. And then you got a gap back there to Wilkie and P12. So, it's going to have that, and we'll see if the battling up front will allow these cars to start climbing back up the ladder a little bit. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day sitting back there for that second pack.
Yeah, and as we are having these packs form rather early on into this race, with only a tick over 6 minutes on the clock of this 40-minute long race, we'll let you know that Marco Pinero still leads it over Felix Samoes and Eric Luke, making up your overall podium. Pinero sang the fastest lap of the race last time by as well, so clearly that number 30 car with the same pace that he usually does. Jeff Fritcher, though, your current Masters leader, he's running very strong, slotted in P4. I was going to raise this stat. Back-to-back Masters pole sitters starting in P4 overall. Some incredible stuff from those Masters drivers here in the Spec Racers as Wilkie and Green continue to battle. And I think there may have been a moment potentially involving Michele Vaglini. We'll take a look at this as he heads his way off into the final turn.
Yep, and is working his way around that final corner. And let's see what we're going to get. I saw a little bit of that inside curb and just tried to hang on to it. Couldn't quite keep the rear behind him, and then into that inside pit wall. And so he's already towed back to the pits. So I think Michele will probably go in, get his stop done. 7-minute mark. I don't know I think that might be a little early for a stop to the end. But, with the tow that he's going to have, he depends on if he crosses the start-finish line or not, whether it's going to be a very long tow or a very short tow.
Yeah, that is actually a rather interesting dilemma that is raised. If you crash coming out of the final turn, are you going to be stopped in the pits for about 15,000 years, or are you actually going to get back to pit lane rather quickly? I will say, though, as we were looking a little bit farther in the back. Oh, contact being made. That's the newcomer, Gilles Genie. He's had a very rough race. Had a moment, the incident we saw in the early stages with himself and Kurt Nunez was involving him. I think there may be some tempers flaring between those racers. Let's take a look at this. It was himself and Jesus Rodriguez coming to blows at the start of the mid-section S's. And he goes, he has a sideways snap through the turn, and deja vu to what we saw with himself and Kurt Nunez a little bit earlier on in the race as well. Carries too much speed into 8, keeps it rolling into 9, and if we can hold off on this shot for a couple of moments here, Guido, because I think there may have been, that's...
Yeah, that's a little bit of the red mist forming there. Between Genie and Rodriguez. It's just like Rodriguez said, you know what, you're going to stay behind me for a couple more corners. And Genie said, no, I'm not. So, it's I think there's a little bit of temper flaring there, but hopefully they'll get that settled down. We won't have that continuing on for the rest of the race.
Yeah, still a long time left to go in this race. He's still up 7 spots, so it's not game, set, match for him just yet. But those incidents definitely not going to make him some fans here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors world, I will say. And this is completely honest, as we see a potential dive, maybe, from the 110 of Joachim Osbeck on Lasky. Looks like they still remain line of stern as they head their way off through turn number 5. An 8.5 KI rating may get you a seat with a big esports team, but respect needs to be learned at there. And I think with those 2 moments, need to cool it off a little bit and try and take it easy. You may have an 8.5 KI rating, but you need to learn the ropes here in the Weekend Warriors world before you start throwing caution to the wind and going for dives that are never going to work, and then being upset at the other drivers for your ridiculous ends not ending well. And if that gets me fired, if you want my job here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, why not write to us at alrighty. Marco Pinero still holds on to the race lead. Felix Samoa is slotted in P2. Eric Luke rounds out your podium, and that's how I really feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll continue. Oh, there with Justice, and could not see who that was. Scott Russell, maybe?
I think that was Russell. I know Josh Justice was involved in all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Gradwell. It was the blue car, not the green one. So yeah, a little bit of contact there. Just a little miscommunication between those drivers on the braking point for that corner. And Justice came in a little hotter than Gradwell did, and so the front to rear contact. And so you see Russell there, and we're going to get a replay here as they're working their way down. And yep, just bang. Yeah, just Gradwell checking up a little bit earlier than Josh expected. And you saw the contact. Josh did his best to try and get out of the way, but not so much. A little contact there. Oh, and Samoa's up in the lead.
Yeah, so we got a game of leapfrog now going on at the front of the field. Felix Samoas and Marco Pinero having a swap-a-roo. I will say, when it comes to the fuel game, that is most certainly important here in the Spec Racer Fords, where strategy plays a massive role in the strategy week after week. We may have seen Pinero say, you know what, I'm going to give you that spot. I don't really care. Yeah, you can see, giving him the drift a little bit and just allowing him to get up in front. Eric Luke thought about maybe following in suit, but a little bit of a block there, so we head our way into the braking zone. Not really sure how I feel about that from Pinero. Nothing too major, though. He still holds on to P2. Eric Luke slotted in 3rd. A swap-a-roo, though, between Samoas and Pinero. 2 veterans here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors world. They know that with the yin of trying to get every single move that you can get done, you also have to play the yang game of letting those spots go. The give and take game is most certainly one that has to be played, and has to be played well to do well here in the Spec Racing Fords.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's got to be a little bit of cooperation out there amongst the drivers. And for the most part, these guys really do race cleanly. But obviously, in a track that we don't come to very often, as we see Josh Justice there just struggling with the front end of his car. Manages to get it caught up, but allows Odell to get around and take that position, move up to P14. So yeah, it's we do have tempers that will sometimes occasionally flare, but for the most part, very clean and respectful racing by everybody.
Yeah, So we got Kevin Adrian along with the likes of Josh Justice, Matt Thompson, and Tom Gradwell all making that call to come down pit lane together. So the pit strategy already starting to get played here at the Hungaroring for race number 3 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior season here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Waiting to see if anybody else will make that call to pit to try and shadow that off. You know, here in the Spec Racer Fords, Charles, I mentioned how the way these cars drive is a bit of a mix of the Formula Vs and the Formula Fords. When you think about the strategy games that can be played here, I wouldn't even say it's like the Formula Fords and the Formula Vs, because they don't have the stops in the FVs. You've just got a completely alien form of racing and form of strategy that you've got here in this series, which is pretty awesome to see, but can also, that's Genie and Leonard Geese battling hard. It looks like Geese tried to get the move done as they headed their way down into 3, but didn't work out well at all. Genie still trying to hold on to that inside. Geese trying to wheel it now. He's got to have the inside line off it to turn number 5, goes for the dive, carries a bit too much speed through the turn, and he comes out of it trying to keep it tucked up to that inside line. Gonna be a side-by-side fight down to 6, and I think, yeah, rightfully so. Geese going to back out of it. That's not a good move to try and get done. We'll say that we saw a little bit there was Genie. I thought, contact being made, and off this track it goes. Petrus and Arosha. Looked like that was a slowdown for Genie, and the drama continues on. I think Andrew Love got pitched into a spin as they headed their way down to the turn. He goes off the track. I'll lose out on both at a time. Now look at Ian Gibson, Jesus Rodriguez battling hard in this spot as well. That was insanity, and I think Genie just picked up a slowdown for some of those moments heading off through the likes of turn 4 and 5, and there you can see checking up everybody else, and drama ensues as they head their way into the mid-sector.
Yeah, not the greatest rejoin either. It just came back on a little bit more, I guess, forcefully, sharper angle as we see the 527 car around. Is another spin there by, is that Geese in the 527 car? Ian Gibson has jumped into the pits. You get another replay here. This is Dan Wood, and on the inside.
No!
Oh, wow. So that was, once again, you got to be paying attention to that relative when you're trying to rejoin and get back into the racing line, racing groove in the right direction, or you have incidents like that. As we're back on board here with Leonard Geese again, as he's behind, I think it was Adam Bradshaw up there, and that was just, no.
Oh no, the drama's continued on. That's genius. We cut back to the live action after he pitched. That was Leonard Geese into a spin down to turn 13. The drama gonna continue on for the driver of the number 16 car. Gets involved in a spin. That is way too shallow of a line into turn number 2. Spins after hitting the curb. What is going on here at the Hungaroring? And that was not a very smart rejoin there with Jesus Rodriguez coming in, barreling in like a bat out of hell. There's a slide, another moment. Bradshaw with some damage as well. I don't think there's going to be oh boy. You can tell that was close because I started speaking in tongues. There's been some more drama for him. That's coming out of turn 4 with another spin.
Yeah, I think those tires are basically just wore out at this point. Probably got damage, either suspension or wheel damage. Yeah, he's struggling trying to keep the car going in a straight line. So he's obviously got some damage. He needs to bring that in, and he has looks like he's maybe just left the session completely. So I don't see him on timing and scoring anymore. So I will say, obviously 8.5K means that you're a pretty talented driver. But this is his first time that I remember him being here in this group, and these cars are just like any other ones. You need a lot of practice to get these cars running properly, and getting the maximum out of them. It takes a few laps. I don't think you could just come in here cold and try and run this race, no matter what your I rating is.
Okay, as we see a moment for Petrus and Rocha in the replay. I'm trying to collect my okay. Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna have to pull off a Control-Alt-Delete on my phone midway through this race. In fact, Gilles Genie, it should be noted, he has not left the session. He's not towed back to pit lane. He got disqualified. Now, bearing in mind, folks, there's an 18x limit to get disqualified here in these races. He hit that in the first half. So it's a fiery debut. That is for certain. I could best compare it to like an old punk rock band from the 1990s. He came onto the scene, definitely made a scene at the start, and burnt out rather quick.
Well, I would say based on the incidents we saw, he was more than a one-hit wonder. But yeah, it was not a long day. It was not a long debut for him.
Felix Samoa is your current race leader at the moment. Eric Lucas slotted in P2. Marco Pinero is running at your overall podium still in third. Jeff Fritcher holds on to the Masters lead, and Joshua Wilkie is currently holding on to the lead in Spec 2. I'm going to try and return to some sort of normalcy. Next thing you know, there's going to be an asteroid that comes down and just takes out one of the drivers we've got on screen right now. Oh, no. Oh, as there's a dive from Pinero with Luke and himself going side by side down to turn number 1. You know, it took me about 206, 207. I don't know how many shows I've done up to this point of the year. It's taken me over 205 to get to the point where I am genuinely speechless. I'm not even sure what to say or how to verbalize it. So I'll say, wow, race cars around a track.
I'm going to say it's been years since you've ever been speechless, Ron, but I think that's why we like having you in the booth.
First time, last time that happened was 22 years ago, which is saying something because I turned 20 back in December.
All right, so yeah, we're going to have a night. We still got the nice battle up front. We've got Samoas, Pinero, Luke, your top 3. Fritcher's in there in 4th, leading the Masters class. Al Shutwee hanging on to this group, running in 5th, and that second group is another 5 cars, I believe, if I've counted that properly. Sitting back there with Kabanka, Lasky, Ospec, Antonio Reese, and Mr. Popeye himself, York Monk.
Still keeping it strong at the front of this field. Got some very talented racers here, and a vast majority of them have remained in the exact same spot that they started this race in, which, considering the drama that we usually expect here in these Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors races and the drama we have most certainly gotten here in the first half, the fact that the drivers between P2 all the way down to P5 still remaining in the exact same spots they started in, rather impressive, as I think there may have been a moment here with Josh Justice and Leonard Geese. Oh, Leonard Geese, that, no. Oh, so I thought it was going to be contact. No, it was a dive from Leonard Geese, and the process of that, Josh Justice got spooked as Pinero actually making the call to come down pit lane here. Interesting from the number 30.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad call. I think he can get some good draft help. With a little contact there between Osbeck and Lasky coming down the front straight. You can draft up. I think the cars are spread out enough now where you're not going to get caught up in a big pile of a group of cars. He should be able to work his way through pretty quickly. So that's not a bad shout by Mr. Pinero at all. So we'll give a little love to Adam Bradshaw up 12 positions and Andrew Love up 9. Having themselves quite a good day, and Leonard Geese, I think might be a little gun shy here at this point after all his interactions he's had during the course of the day. So he's got to be careful, obviously, because one car making contact causes incident points for both cars. So he may be kind of borderline there, as we see Tom Gradwell just kind of catching the rear there. A little minor over rotation, so he's going to have to be careful. He'll be have to serve a drive-through if he's not.
Yeah, so Jeff Fritcher now holds on to P3, which would be a very fantastic result for your reigning Masters champion. Jeff Fritcher last season, very good driver to keep our eyes on throughout it. So nice to see him back to form here this season. I will say one thing as well, Charles. Here in the Spec Racer Fords, it feels like the Masters racers here in this series have a better turn of fortune here in the SRFs compared to the likes of the Formula Fords and the Formula Vs. Does that have any sort of merit? Do you kind of see where I'm getting at, or I'm just blowing smoke out of my rear end?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a bigger contingent here in the Spec racers than in the formulas. So I think that might have something to do with it. I think there's a few extra drivers that prefer running this car. It's kind of more of a, if you come up through iRacing, you kind of pick your discipline, and I think there's probably more that kind of come up in that sports car discipline, which I think these cars kind of handle more like than the Formula cars as we see Lasky. Is that? Oh, okay. He just a blink. I thought it was a blink there. I thought he was our next victim of the disqualification, but he's so he's running in P7. So I think that might have something to do with it. But yeah, obviously I think that the Masters guys perform a little better overall in this series than they do in the Formula 4s.
We're starting to see some more drivers blink in and out of existence here. With how crazy this race has been, iRacing getting hit with a DDoS attack for the first time in months would not be the last thing that I would have in terms of going on here in this race. That would just about be par for the course with the chaos we've seen here at the Hungaroring. It's been a ring. It's been a cage fight, I would say, more than anything else. These drivers have been throwing haymakers at each other. For some, it didn't work out. For others, it has. I will say, though, and I'm calling my shot now with a little under half this race left to go, I will be rather surprised if we don't have any more drivers fall to that 18x disqualification. So I would not be too shocked if those incident points come back to bite these drivers very violently on the hind end.
Yeah, I see a couple of drivers looking at our timing and scoring system that are already kind of pushing that level to where they're going to end up having to serve a drive-through. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. I think Scott Russell, I'm kind of looking down the list, Andrew Love, Dan Wood, and then Rocha also already has a couple of contacts, which has kind of jumped his number up as well. So, yeah, you got to be very careful. This is one of those that you get some off tracks and slowdowns, and next thing you know, you're having to drive it through the pits an extra time, which is really a race killer, to be fair, as we see Justice off, jumps over the curbs and gets the car righted, but obviously just kind of missed. And Justice, another one of those, is a real life spec racer driver, just kind of struggling with Hungaroring today.
Yeah, I feel like everybody is having their own struggles with this racetrack. I feel like I've entered a bizarro world for this broadcast. Next thing you know, it's going to feel like I'm getting like tased in my arm or something like that. That would be another jolt for this broadcast. Got some hard chargers, though, picking their way through the smoke and the dust and the drama and the chaos. Kane Lasky continuing to blink in and out wildly. And Charles, you have raised this point in the past here on these broadcasts. A couple seasons ago, iRacing brought in some new features where if push comes to shove and an internet issue is too bad, iRacing will say, ha, no, and then just kick you out of the race. So I think Kane Lasky is kind of getting up to that point every now and then. I'm not sure what sort of internet connection he has at the moment. I'm looking through. I think his ping is on par with the likes of Brad Cathcart, which is saying something because Cathcart's all the way down there in Australia. So I'm not sure whether or not he's running on dial-up internet or just like a hamster running on a wheel, but I think that hamster may need some food because it is struggling.
Yeah, he is, and I think we've seen that from Lasky before. He does have internet connectivity issues from time to time, and yeah, the iRacing system is constantly doing little updates, and one of those is if your internet connection starts to ping out a little bit and you start getting lots of lags, and we see that group, Lasky, Reese, and Monty, coming in for their pit stop, that they will remove you from the track and put you back in the pits, and then once your internet connection is stabilized, they'll let you go back out. So it's kind of like a meatball flag for your internet connection.
Yeah, so more drivers make that call to come down pit lane, and I appreciate that analogy, the meatball flag for the internet connection. I guess everyone cannot be blessed with high-quality internet. It's, it happens. I gotta say, the section of the city of Philadelphia that I'm in, if I go just outside the city limits, there are sections where I have worse internet connection there than I had driving past random cornfields in the middle of Iowa. So internet connection can be a very, very tricky thing to try and predict at certain points in time. But hey, Happens to the best of us. I've had my own fair share of internet and tech issues. It's just part of iRacing. Everyone has their own troubles from now and then. But those pit stops certainly flaring up. Something's gone disastrously wrong, though, in this pit cycle for Sul Al-Shutwi. He is still in the pits. Jason Green, he's getting moved on at Adam Bradshaw. But something is wrong with Al-Shutwi. Is he there to serve a penalty? I'm looking through. Doesn't look like he has any sort of outstanding black flag. So I think he may have just accidentally forgot to like unclick tires or something, because he's been stopped for well over a minute up to this point.
Yeah, it's been over the time which you would see it for a pit lane speeding penalty. So he's up on the jack. So he is getting a tire change, which probably did not want, to be fair. These tires are pretty durable, and they usually last the entire 40 minutes. So yeah, just a mistake by Al-Shutwi setting up his pit. So that's going to take him out of competition here at least for the race win for sure. Oh, that was late for Cabanca and Ozbek. That was really late coming in by Cabanca to jump over to the pit entry line.
Yeah, that was definitely a close quarters call from Cabanca, making that call to come down pit lane. He will come into the pits from fourth at the moment. Michael Odell going to join those racers as well. The usual litmus test that we have here for the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors pit cycles is Flavio Andelo in the number 13 car. He is usually the very last driver to come down pit lane. We always talk about Stevie being the benchmark in the races that he's at in terms of when the pit cycle opens. Flavio Andelo, he is able to stretch out that fuel so much farther than everybody else. I'm not sure whether or not he's pulling off the old Smokey unit trick of having the fuel line wrap around the car 7 times, or whether or not he's a fuel tank whisperer, but he is always able to stretch that car out for quite some time. It works out well for him in some of these races. Worked out well for him a couple of weeks ago at Interlagos, where after starting from the pole, dropped down a little bit, was in contention for the race win as a result of a nice call to pit during that race. So won't discredit that for Andlos. He's slotted P4 at the moment. Still also make that call to come down pit lane, and he's only 12 seconds off of your race leader, who's Felix Samoas.
Yeah, he's right up there, and with a really quick pit stop here, going an extra lap or two, that's going to give him some extra time on the track, and you never can tell where you're going to come out. He's got a gap of about 13 seconds back to Pinero, who is our leader that's already pitted. So I don't think that's going to be enough to keep up with him. So looks like the pit times are going to be right around the 35-second mark, if you count the fact that they're actually rolling during part of that. But it's a 40-second cone to cone. So we see the leaders into the pits now, and here comes Andelo around the penultimate corner. Is he going to pit? No, he's not. He's going to go out for one more lap at least.
Yeah, as per usually is the case. Yep, there we go. Flavio Andelo staying out for yet another lap, but Samoas, Luke, and Fritcher all making that call to come into the pits at the same time. Josh Wilkie going to join them there as well. We want to keep tabs on the number 30 of Marco Pinero, as I think I see him in the back of shot head his way onto that start-finish straightaway. Let's see how that'll shake out for him. Looks like Samoas is going to be a race leader. Fritcher jumps in front of Eric Luke. Eric Luke having a disastrous pit cycle. Here comes Pinero, though. He's got that momentum on the racetrack still with some warmer tires, and he's going to be right between Samoas and Fritcher. Fritcher, though, very nice strategy call from him, going to shake out and will be net P3 as a result of this pit cycle. Eric Luke, though, not exactly sure what that issue was. I don't even think it was an issue for Eric Luke. I think Jeff Fritcher had a very short stop at 9.3 seconds stopped in the pit stall, and 40.9 down pit lane together. So not sure whether or not Jeff Fritcher is going to be a candidate for the Thompson Trophy here this week or what, but Fritcher, if he can make this strategy work, he'll be golden. If not, he'll probably be crying into his pillow at the end of tonight.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it was about a second slower than a second quicker than Pinero. So we'll see how that works for him. He hasn't been up in the lead. He's just been kind of riding in the back. So maybe he saved enough fuel that that short pit is going to pay off. Of course, we'll come up to the line and you'll know in short order whether or not we're going to have an extra lap or not as we get closer to the end of this race. And that might be the thing It's just so many times it just comes down to the timing of the cars when they cross that start-finish line. We might get an extra lap, and that might be the nail in the coffin for Fritcher.
As here we go, and Dallo finally makes that call to come down pit lane. I think he was trying to fiddle with our brains a little bit because he was slowly but surely meandering his way back onto the racing line. I was like, no, don't tell me. And then he finally makes that call to come down pit lane. So this will give the race lead back to Felix Samoes. And now, when we think about the strategy content, always super important here in the Spec Racer Fords, my mind personally flashes back to last season here when we were running at this track. It was a driver running out of fuel coming right to the line. I believe in the end of it all, it may have potentially been Felix Samoes who was leading towards the end at a slightly shorter stop, came down pit lane, filled up, and ended up running out of fuel coming out of the final turn right towards the end of that race and ended up losing the victory. Now, in that situation, he had a rather comfortable gap, so I don't think we may end up seeing that happen here, as there may have been some drama for Jurg Mani. Let's take a look at this here. It was drama for him potentially down into turn number 1, the Popeyes Spec Racer Ford. Let's see the drama.
Yep, as we're coming down, and we got Angelo coming out of the pits. Is they're going to wow. Osbeck behind, I think, was what happened there to Jorg. And Jorg says, that's enough for me today. And so Jorg immediately takes it back to the pits, and I believe is gone for the race. So very sad to see he was having a good run up in the top 10. And we'll go back to the lead pack here. These two cars, Samoas and Pinero. So often we see these two up at the front battling at the end of the race. And so it's no surprise that we see it again today.
And I will say, in all that drama down to 1, well done from Christian Gabanka. He was able to keep that car going rather well, and worked out all right for him. He avoided the drama like the plague. Will say, though, keeping tabs with the black flag drama, Joachim Osbeck has a black flag in the 110 car, and Jesus Rodriguez has picked up a disqualification. So, as I sort of expected, as we pass the halfway mark, and have some more drivers fall victim to those 18x limits. It's a little bit more wiggle room than you get in the officials, but here in these longer races than the officials, these drivers, especially involved in some drama a little bit earlier on, they really have to take it easy after some incidents a little bit earlier.
Yeah, you have to, once again, you have to pick your battles on the track, and once you get that instant limit starts climbing by either contact with other cars or off tracks, you just have to start being very careful with your line. And once again, pick your battles wisely during the course of this race, as these off-track limits are. Oh no, we got Kevin Adrian also with the black flag, so he's going to have a drive-through. So that's Osbeck and Adrian coming down pit lane now to serve their drive-through penalty. That's going to shuffle them back in the order a bit more, and I believe Osbeck actually decided he is going to pit, and he got out of the car. So.
Yep, I think Joachim Osbeck decided, you know what? I'm not a fan of Hungaroring today in Alt-F Ford with less than 5 minutes left to go in this race. We're coming up to the point where we only have about 4 minutes left on the clock, and it's really turned into a 2-horse race between Felix Samoes and Marco Pinero. This will be a good result for these racers when it comes to that championship. Eric Luke a little bit farther back, probably wishing that things went a little bit better. I wouldn't discredit him still ending up on the podium with that very short stop from Jeff Fritcher, but as it stands presently, Luke would certainly lose some ground in that Spec 1 championship battle. Coming to the end of this race, they're going to be taking the white flag, not this time by, but next time by is when these drivers are going to see that white flag in the air. And for Felix Samoes and Marco Pinero, it's deja vu to many, many other times in which we've seen those two battling for win here in the Spec Racer Fords.
Yeah, and I always think back to see these guys battling in double disqualifications, that we had at like Donington. And so we got Eric Luke up there. Jeff Fritcher coming down pit lane. So did he get a black flag as well? Did he get a drive-through?
Looking through, I don't believe there's a flag for him, so that had to have been a
That's
call
the
to come
fuel.
down pit lane.
Yep.
So Jeff Fritcher gonna pick up the Thompson Trophy as Panero maybe gonna look to try and get a move done on Felix Samoa's around the outside into turn number 2 in a couple of moments' time. That'll give the Masters lead to Antonio Reese as a result of that stop from Fritcher. Big swing of momentum when it comes to that Masters Class Championship battle. Reese on track for a solid result inside the top 5. Eric Luke set to finish in P3. I'm not going to say I called it, but I definitely did call it.
You definitely called it. That was a good call by you. So, yeah, it was definitely just under call. And hey, look, we had a fight with you guys last week. We don't need another one today. About who's
We got
right
beef, my God. Oh, man. I love you, Guido. Anyways, we still got this good battle up at the front. These drivers got paid stake in the white with a lot of tension for the both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And now with Fritcher coming into the pits, as you said, gives Reese the lead in the Masters class and gives Eric Luke the final step on the podium, running in third. He's about 5 seconds behind this pack, or behind this battle. So, Stranger, we've seen weird things happen when we get these two guys up at the front because they will battle and they'll battle hard. So, it would be weird for them to have another double disqualification as they battle in this last lap. Coming up here as we're working our way down around the penultimate corner one more time, making the sweep around that 180 and then up to the final corner to start our white flag lap.
If we get double disqualification here on this white flag lap, I'm not really sure how I will respond. I'm not sure if my vocal cords will be happy about whatever response that comes out of my mouth. But the white flag in the air, one more lap of racing action here at the Hungaroring, and Samoa's going to try and block off that inside as Panero going to swap around. Look at those drivers chasing each other's tails as they head their way down that start-finish stretch into one. Samoa is still going to hold off that challenge. It was definitely some risky stuff for the both of them. Contact being made as they head their way out of turn number 1. That could have been so close to pure unbridled disaster. A bump draft and a Spec Racer Ford may be good in a straight line, but coming out of a turn, I don't think so. Samoas leads them heading out of turn number 2 for the final time in this race. Panero needs to size up the opportunities and figure out when to get this move done. Samoa's running a little bit wide out of turn number 3. I wonder if he potentially could pick up a slowdown as a result of that drama. Down to the turn, taking a shallow line is Samoa's. Keeps it within the boundaries of the racing surface. Neither of them picked up a slowdown or a black flag thus far. They've got a clean run through to the fall of the checkered flag. Samoa's gonna block off that inside line down to the 6 and 7 chicane. Don't see a racer go for a move through there. Not gonna see it from Panero. Samoa's leads him out of the turn into the mid-sector for the final time. Through into turn number 8 and 9. These drivers still running nose to tail. 10 and 11 will follow a little bit quicker than the turns that immediately preceded it, and I wonder if that dirty air may potentially cause Panero to drop down like a rock. He keeps close to the back of him through turn 11. They're nearly bumper to bumper through the turn. Now Samoa's going to block that inside line. Panero looks for it around the outside into turn number 12, one of the last heavy braking zones of this lap. Not able to get the move done is Marco Panero. Samoa's going to keep the momentum rolling through the turn into lucky number 13 for the final time. Marco Panero still there within striking distance if Felix Samoa's has any sort of trip up, but I'm not sure if there will be one from the driver of the number 31 car. He goes for the dive though into the turn. Panero gonna steal one here at, he's gonna let him by. He did feel good about that move. He's gonna let Samoa's grab the win here in this race. The sportsman roll for Marco Panero. I thought he was gonna steal one and he nearly did, but Marco Panero, ever the gentleman, gonna let his rival back through. Fantastic stuff at the end of this race, and I only had one minor heart attack in the process of calling that.
Yeah, that was a very sportsmanlike move by Panero there. He just, the contact, had he made that move clean, it was a great move. He just kind of crossed him over there coming through the corner and would have had a good run down to the line, but because they're contact and really, really hard contact between himself and Samoa's, he said, you know what? I don't want to win that way. We'll let him take this one, and we'll take P2 today.
That right there, that's the sportsman stuff from him. That is the stuff that you like to see here in the Weekend Warriors. Well done, though, to both of them. They put on a brilliant battle at the very end of that. Eric Luke walks away with the final spot on the overall podium. Antonio Reese grabs a Masters win at the end of it all, finishing this race in 4th. And props are due to our S&B colleague, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, going to walk away with his first Spec 2 win of this season, finishing the race down in P11. May not be the greatest result on paper, but it's a win in Spec 2, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I'm looking through, though, because I am curious. Anybody pick up a flag towards the end of that race? I think we may have gone away with one there, so I need to cover my bases just in case, because, you know, if we end up seeing a situation where one of those drivers, whether it be Samoas or Pinero, picked up a black flag right at the end of all of that, and was not picked up at the time because they were so close in that run up to the line, that would be rather par for the course for this very insane race today. And I'm looking through, I don't think either of them picked up a black flag, so that is going to be Samoa's grabbing the win. Someone's burst into flames, heading down into 1 and making contact still. We're burning them down here at the Hungaroring. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, that was a hard hit. Yeah, so no real jumps here, so we just said, you know what, we're going to trash them down here going into turn 1. And so, you know, standard fare as we get the nose in between that Josh Wilkie and could not catch the other car. Either way, good race, really exciting finish, great battle up front, and you know, because of all that battle, Eric Luke was only like a second and a half behind at the end of that race. It was very close. Now we're stacking them up on the tire barriers.
Who was that just flying their way into the roll-off area of turn number 1? That may have been Felix Samoa's. Oh, man. That was the hardest I've laughed in quite some time. I may have been able to form an ab as a result of that laugh. I think that's Flavio Angelo that's also stopped up on the wall, and I heard the unmistakable sound of metal snapping, so someone has blown up their motor in the process. What is there to be said?
Yeah, not much you can say of that. It's just, you know, standard Weekend Warrior stuff there at the end of the race. That is that's how they should be blowing off steam, is at the end of the race once everybody's crossed the start finish line, and we encourage it.
So let's return to some professional decorum from me and take a look at the results at the end of today. Felix Samoa's going to walk away with the victory. Marco Pinero slotted in P2. Eric Luke rounds out your overall podium in 3rd. It'll be Antonio Reese being classed in 4th, the leader and winner of the Masters category. It's Christian Cabanco rounding out your overall top 5. Flavio Angelo with a very nice charge towards the end of that race is classed down in P6. Kane Lasky, who I think dropped down like a rock thrown into a pond right at the very end of that, is classed down in 7th. Jason Green in P8. Michael Odell in 9th. Jeff Fritzscher rounds out your top 10. Josh Wilkie is slotted right behind in 11th, winning it in Spec 2. Dirk Braun is classed in P2 of the Spec 2s in 12th overall. It's Scott Russell finishing right behind the lucky number P13. Josh Justice in 14th, with Tom Gradwell and Matt Thompson rounding out the first half of the 32 cars starters.
There you go. Kevin Adrian finishes in 17th, just off Spec 2 podium. In P18, we've got Dan Wood. Adam Bradshaw finishes in 19th. Brad Cathcart in 20th. Andrew Love in 21st. Leonard Geese 22nd. Ian Gibson in 23rd. Peterson Roca finishing in 24th. Charlie Vaccaro in 25th. Michele Bailini in 26th. Joaquin Osbeck in 27th. Jorg Monty finishing in 28th. Jesus Rodriguez in 29th. Soal Shutwe in 30th. Genie in 31st. And then Kurt Nunez is the final car finishing on our 32-car grid today.
In a race here at the Hungaroring that I can best compare to a mass hallucination, it is a brilliant result at the end of the day for Felix Samoa's grabbing yet another victory. We're going to, it doesn't look like he's there in the interview waiting area just yet, but we do have some drivers looking to have a chat with us. In fact, there he is. So, Charles, I will let you have a chat with our winner at the end of today, that being Felix Samoa's.
All right, let's bring Felix in here. Felix, congratulations on the race win. Great battle with you and Marco, and I think some good sportsmanship there at the end of the race.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, Marco, he gave me the place back. To be honest, maybe he didn't have to, but I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, it was a dive. I wasn't counting on it. I was a bit surprised. But yeah, I was defending for my life. Honestly, the last 2 laps, covering every place on the inside, being careful to not go wide and block the inside, having good exits. It almost worked out, but in the end, Marco gave the place back, so I won the race.
Yeah, I was going to ask, that last couple of laps looked like you were looking in the mirrors quite a bit over that, just doing your best to try and keep Marco behind. But he, once again, made a really good move, kind of a crossover there on that final corner, and had a good run to the inside. But once again, the contact, and he said, that's not how I want to win. So great job. But it was a lot cleaner up front than we saw in some of the areas in the back over the course of the race.
We exchanged some messages, and we tried between the two of us to make it cleaner this season, to not repeat what happened in previous seasons. Let's see for how long that lasts, but hopefully until the end of the season. I'll do my best, and I'm confident Marco will also do his best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Felix, congratulations on your race victory. We'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs, and we'll let you go celebrate.
As usual, everybody involved, and Marco for the sportsmanship on the last lap, and everyone that keeps the leagues going, and you guys in the commentary booth. It's always fun to watch races.
All right, Felix, thanks. Have a good day.
All good. Ciao.
And that right there was Felix Samoas, your overall race winner at the end of today. And because you had a chat with him earlier on, Charles, I will have a chat with our Masters winner of Antonio Reed, who's now joining us in the commentary booth. Antonio, welcome here into the broadcast booth. Well done on getting the double here today.
Yeah, surprise of surprises. I didn't expect that. So I was a lucky guy. Where we say he's a lucky dog on the oval races, I'm a lucky guy on the road race.
Well, had the 4-leaf clover in your car here today. That looked like a really hectic race here at the Hungaroring. How about you talk us through it from your perspective?
4 leaves on my car? No, that is a Lasky, I think. Are you talking about my paint?
No, I was just saying that you have a 4-leaf clover somewhere.
Oh yes, the lucky lotus flower. Yeah, sorry. I didn't understand that. I'm a little bit stupid on. Yeah. What was your question? Sorry, I forgot.
First off, don't feel stupid. You're getting interviewed by me of all people. Secondly, how would you talk us through this race here today from your perspective behind the wheel?
Yeah, I was very unprepared, so I didn't touch the car for a long time. I didn't race this track for a long time, so I was really expecting nothing. I was just trying to stay on the track and then having fun with the guys, and then all of a sudden on the last lap I get from 8 to 4. So I was thinking, what's going on?
Well, definitely a hectic one here at the Hungaroring, and I don't think anything will really change when we head to Lime Rock in 1 week's time. That's always a draft-heavy race, so looking forward to that in 1 week's time.
I want to escape from that. That track is so close, laps, everybody's so close. So, yeah, well, we will see. It's always good fun. So we always have a great group, and a great community. So we are, all have a very good a race. What do you call it in English? I'm sorry, help me. Race craft, race fair race. Yeah.
And certainly looking forward to that in 1 week's time. I always love Lime Rock, albeit I'm a little bit biased because that track isn't too terribly far away from me, but puts out some absolutely awesome racing, and looking forward to seeing you out there in 1 week's time, Antonio. We'll let you go and celebrate this win after any thanks or chats that you want to give.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for the broadcast. It's always a great moment to watch, and then also for Steve Ray and the sponsor, I think is Luke. And as well, for the drivers, the great community, Weekend Warriors community drivers, and And for the guys that are watching, don't forget to hit the bell.
I'll always have to get that and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell mention out there, Antonio. Thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth.
Thank you.
Well done on the win here in the SRFs, and looking forward.
Thank you for
to
having
seeing
me,
you out
guys.
there next week.
Okay, see you. Take care. Bye.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, your Masters winner at the end of it all here today at Hungaroring. And Charles, who do you want to have a chat with?
Well, I guess we should bring in our Spec 2 winner, Mr. Josh Wilkie, and have a chat with him.
We'll let the boss man into his own booth.
Yeah, for sure. Josh, congratulations, Spec 2 victory today. You kind of started a little bit further back, but you kind of were in the maybe a little bit in front of the madhouse, but it was a little sketchy back there in the mid pack today.
Yeah, it kind of always is, Charles, for sure. The mid pack is a dangerous place to be all the time. It's just not really even that everybody drives really really great most of the time. It's just a hectic place to be, period. I was able to kind of squeeze my way through it there. Had a really bad pit stop again, just struggling with fuel. If I have to do math while I'm driving, it's a bad scenario, and I lost a bunch of pace mid-race, kind of knowing that I was going to be okay. But yeah, it was fun. Jason Green took a bit of damage. I was kind of trying to figure out who was going to be faster there and lead for a bit. Turns out Jason Green's faster than me with damage, so that's something to know. I need a little more pace there, but I had fun today for sure. It was a good race.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, it was. We saw you back there battling with Jason. I think Jason was just a little off his game today, and he's not normally hiding back there at the end of the top 10. So, but you had a good battle. I think we were watching you and Dirk Braun, Scott Russell were there with you. I think Matt Thompson was up there with you at the start of the race as well. So you managed to come out victorious, at least in your class. So that you got to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, for sure. It was a struggle out there. This track's not easy, and it was really, really greasy out there for sure. It was tough to. The car wanted to turn around really bad. It wanted to get make the rear end, the front end in a lot of places, and it was difficult. Could not find a rhythm out there today myself. I'm just kind of struggling with it, but was able to pull it out anyway. I think we made a bit of contact, me and Dirk. I have to go back and look. I don't know what it was, if that was my fault or what. I was kind of on the edge of grip there. I think he tried to come up the inside, but no foul, I don't think. Anyway, but yeah, good racing. I had a good time. This is a hard track, man. It was easier in the FF, I think. Really hard in the SRF today.
Huh. All right. Well, there you go. Josh, congratulations again on your class victory. We'll let you give any thanks or shout outs, and then we'll let you go and celebrate a little bit.
Yeah, awesomely massive thanks to the admin, Stevie and Michelle and Jim and everybody in the background there who does the points. I believe Aaron Bray, does points for us and stuff every weekend, and it just wouldn't be able to happen without you guys, and you guys know that in the booth here as well, and production, Guido, you know how much work it takes in the background, so thanks to everyone as usual, and you guys in the booth too, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
All right, Josh, take care, have a good one.
Later, guys.
And that right there was Mr. Joshua Wookie, our Spec 2 winner at the end of this race. And before we wrap up the interviews, we'll have a chat with the sponsor of today's broadcast, Mr. Eric Luke, joining us now in the commentary booth. Eric, welcome in. It was a pretty wild race out there, but you walk away with the podium. Firstly, how was your race here at the Hungaroring?
It was going well until I went stupid in a no stupid zone and missed my pit stall. So there's that. But yeah, I really love this track, even in the surface of the temperature sun conditions. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun chasing Felix and Marco and Jeff for most of the first half, and just that little mistake. You can't make those kind of mistakes with these guys, otherwise you're going to lose touch, and there goes your chances.
Yeah, but overall, it was from our perspective, there was a certain point in time where I felt like a cattle auctioneer calling this broadcast, and I nearly had a heart attack with the two at the front of the field, having a swapperoo about 5 times to the final corner. But this racing here at the Hungaroring, I mean, from our perspective on the broadcast, it's rather sketchy. So how is it behind the wheel? That's got to be just like a mix of terror, excitement, fun, and like being slightly horrified to see what's going to happen next all at the same time.
It does get very interesting when you're so used to the car reacting in a certain manner as you're going through or coming out of a corner, And then when it does something different that you're not expecting, whether it's the front breaking loose or the rear kicking loose, it kind of tenses everything up, and you're just kind of like, why did that happen? And you gotta try to power through that, to forget it, to concentrate on the next corner. But thankfully the officials were close to this temperature, so I was able to get the correct practice in. So it can be sketchy and fun all at the same time. It's fun-fueled terror, if you will.
And of course, as we mentioned a lot throughout this broadcast, you are the sponsor of this week's broadcast here of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors through yourself and Clow Valve Company. I'll give you the floor to tell us a little bit about what Clow Valve does.
So Clow Valve is a domestic manufacturer of fire hydrant and water valves throughout the United States. And we kind of pride ourselves in providing these life-sustaining products to the utilities and to the public that needs it. Been in business for over 100 years. We're owned by the McWayne Company, and it's a really good company to work for, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
And you will be the sponsor as well for next week's broadcast at Lime Rock Park. Lime Rock and the Spec Racer Fords, from the last time Charles and I did that combination together, was definitely a rather exciting race. So what are your thoughts heading off to there in 1 week's time?
People are going to die. That's about all I can say. Lime Rock with the Spec Racer. I don't know if I've even gone around Lime Rock in the Spec Racer. So just in itself, we ran a private league where we were running the old Daytona prototypes, and that was a lot of fun going around Lime Rock. So with the Spec Racer Ford, it's definitely going to be a new challenge, and I absolutely look forward to it. And I expect chaos, cats and dogs living together, the whole 9 yards that always comes with Lime Rock.
And I wasn't going to say that in reference to Lime Rock Park. What I will say, though, and Charles, along with Tam in the YouTube chat, who was actually on that broadcast with us over a year ago, the last time the Spec Racer Fords ran at Lime Rock, there was a driver who got sent up in, I think it was into low Earth orbit. It may have been Jeff Fritcher, who just hit the inside wall. We were running the classic layout there, hit the inside wall coming through turn number 5, I believe it is, and just got pinged off into the stratosphere. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't see too many aerial acrobatics, but we will have our scorecards on deck if we do. But Eric, we'll let you give any thanks or shouts out before we let you go and celebrate this podium and get some seat time in for that Lime Rock race.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. Big thank you to Clow Valve Company, Slow Motion Broadcasting. Love what you guys do every weekend. Thank you very much. If my wife is watching, hello, Jen. And big congrats to Felix and Marco for the first and second positions.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. Thank you for making today's broadcast of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors possible here on SMB, and looking forward to seeing you hit the racetrack in 1 week's time at Lime Rock Park.
Take care, gents.
And that right there was Eric Luke, the sponsor of this broadcast. And Charles, Lime Rock, 1 week's time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, another little tight, twisty track. It's obviously one of the base content for iRacing, so everybody should be very familiar with it. Whether they've been in the Spec Racer there or not is a different story, but it's going to be good racing, and they'll drive it as hard as they can, and they'll be respectful, as we've seen with our front runners today. So it'll be some fantastic racing, but wouldn't surprise me that we have a few cars driving through the grass, and maybe a couple that are off their wheels at some point during that event.
Yeah, and I'm going to look through right now to see exactly what version of Lime Rock we are running on in 1 week's time. If it is the classic layout, I will prepare myself to read out some on-air eulogies, but if we're running on all the chicaned lads, I have a feeling we may be in for a wacky race there. It's still going to be entertaining no matter how you slice it here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and part of the absolutely amazing schedule that we've got, and hearing as well and looking as well at the other schedule. It is a classic layout that we're running at, so
Yeah, prepare to pour out some drinks, folks, for that race in 1 week's time. That's going to be some fun. Going to be hectic, going to be chaotic. We may see someone get sent off to the moon, but it will certainly be fun here on SMB. And to all of you tuning into this broadcast today, we hope you have enjoyed the racing action. If you have, how about hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast, for week number 3 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at the Hungaroring, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working all the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you also very much for watching this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.